How you doing? This is Coffee Break with Jimmy. You can fool all the people some of the time. You can fool some of the people all of the time. But you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's what's going on with all this fraud. This fraud that exists in California. It exists in Minnesota. This has already been proven. But apparently this is going on in Maine too. You never think of fraud in Maine. You think of lobster when you think of Maine. At least I do anyway. They say Maine has some of the best lobster. But Abraham Lincoln said that, can't fool all the people all the time. But this has been going on for a while, this fraud with hospice and with Medical, and with the tune of millions and billions of dollars, apparently. And this has been going underneath the radar. In fact, I believe they're withholding federal funds in the state of California until California will jump on this and get on this to find out where all this fraud is. And this has been going on, and they're not going to get any more federal funding until it's done. And I don't blame them for doing it, because apparently it's been going on for so long. They have to know about it. They have to know about this fraud. The bullet train, you could talk about all kinds of other fraud other than that, but this is what's supposed to help our elderly. Hospice is supposed to help our elderly people in the latter parts of their life. And this has been going on for a while. And then you have, what was her name? Eileen Wang. She was the mayor of Arcadia, California. And apparently she has already pleaded guilty to spying on California. And she was, they had this other girl, Fang was, I guess Eric Swall was sleeping with this girl her name was Fang, and she was a spy for China. And then you had I guess it was, I don't know if it was the driver or it was her right-hand woman there for Dianne Feinstein, who was also a spy. She was a Chinese spy for China. And Trump just went to China, and I guess he has a great relationship with Xi over there in China. And he took, was it 15 or 20 different CEOs from big companies here, including Elon Musk, and to go over there and do business with China. They want to do business with China. But China's going to have to come on board with us. They're not taking any of the tariffs away. They're keeping the tariffs in place. But China's got something to do with Iran. China, I guess, I believe they get somewhere to 50 to 70% of their oil products from Iran. And they get it from Russia also, but they get the bulk of it from Iran. So they're looking, and they talked about this. So they're looking about China doing something with Iran to make sure Iran, if they want to do a deal, they got a ceasefire in place. We still got the blockade on there. They're not letting any ships come in from Iran. I guess the oil, the reserves there, where they're storing oil now, that's up to 85% of all the reserves there in Iran, to where they're almost full. They're going to have to send some oil out in order for them to keep pumping the oil, because once they stop the process, it's going to take a major ordeal just to get the oil pumping again in Iran. But Iran doesn't have any leg to stand on. They don't have an administration. They got the mullahs. They've already killed 2 rounds of mullahs, of leaders from the mullahs. And the Iranian people, they want their freedom back. Now, I've said it before, that this is maybe something that Trump doesn't want to do. And I can understand why President Trump doesn't want to do this. But he doesn't want to put boots on the ground. And I can see why, because he doesn't want any more, and he doesn't want death, especially our people. And I agree to that. But we have, 2,000 Marines over there right now on the Tripoli. And they could be put on the ground and train some of the people there in Iran. Now, the only thing that I would be afraid of, and because it happened in Afghanistan, we were trying to teach the Afghanistans on how to fight for themselves. Of course, this didn't work out. This doesn't work out for the Afghanistanis. and they ended up shooting some of our people in the back, some of the guys that were training them. And whether they're Marines or soldiers, I don't know which ones they were, but I know there were some of our trainers that were training Afghanis how to fight for themselves. And then as soon as we pulled out, the Taliban took over. We don't want that to happen in Iran, because the IRGC, they're in charge right now, but they don't have the weaponry anymore. They're running low on that, and they don't have any of it. Maybe they got some of it coming from China. I don't know. Maybe some of the other countries there, surrounding countries there, are actually feeding them in some weaponry to Iran. And I believe if they are doing such a thing, I think our administration, I think our military would know this. I think we have enough eyes, listening, watching, and ears listening to what's going on, that we absolutely know what the Iranian the IRGC is doing right now. But they got to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and they got to get that flow of products coming out of there from UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, all those other countries that line the Strait of Hormuz there. And it's not just owned by Iran, but most of Iran's products come through the Strait of Hormuz. But I think China, and the way President Trump was talking about in his visit with President Xi in China, I guess they're on the same page when it comes to that. Of course, I think President Xi wants something done with Taiwan, and I don't think we're gonna budge on Taiwan. Taiwan is a democratic nation there. They don't want to become part of China again. They don't want to be underneath China's rule. And most of there's a lot of electronics done in Taiwan right now. A lot of our capacitors and stuff are done over there, and so I don't know that anything's going to be done with Taiwan, but I believe that's probably what they want. But anyhow, they had a pretty good meeting. But again, you can't fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time. But you can't fool all the people all the time. This stuff's been going on. I'm talking about all the fraud that's going on in this country. I mean, think about the Epic City there in Texas. Governor Scott has already shut that down. Chip Roy has already, him and Governor Scott together have shut that down. And apparently they're starting another community there in the state of Texas. And I don't know why they're trying to start a state of Texas. It's not going to happen in Texas. California, I can understand that, because out here in California, we're idiots. Okay, I can understand where they would try to make an all-Muslim city. That doesn't happen here in the United States. Anybody can buy anywhere, even if you're Muslim and you want to come over here and live the American dream. But you have to assimilate to our way of life. This country was started and based off Judeo-Christian values. There was, I guess, the Bible was stated so many times in our Constitution, and the way this country was built. It was built that way, and it's not going to change. We don't go by the Quran. We don't go by Sharia law. That doesn't exist here. But of course, that's the way Dearborn, Michigan wants it, and if they've already had it that way, I guess that's going to stop. But it's also happening in Minnesota. It's happening with the Somalis there. And now they're trying to do this in Texas. Well, that's going to come to a stop. Like I said in the beginning, you can't fool all the people all the time. It's just not going to happen. And all these spies they've been saying this. People have been sending over their pregnant women from China and having children here in the United States. Then they go back to China, and then these children come back when they're grown. They come back and they're American citizens because they have some sort of birthright citizenship. That doesn't happen. You have to assimilate. You have to go through. When I was in the 8th grade, and that was the thing that all of us worried about in the 8th grade, we had to pass the Constitution in order to go on to high school. Of course, I got 100% on the Constitution, and then that was a written exam, and then of course you had a written exam, that was you had to write out things about the Constitution. I got 95% on that. But the question and answers, I got 100% on that. So I passed the Constitution with darn near 100%. But other people from other nations, they've got to do the same thing. They got to read up on the Constitution. They got to follow our laws and our ways of life. And but all these spies that are infiltrating, you're talking about China. You're talking about, and I don't know if the Muslims are, but I believe they are. I believe a lot of the Shiite Muslims, they're a little bit different than the Sunni Muslims. And then some of the Sunnis could be doing the same thing. You're talking about other nationalities from other countries coming over here and they're buying up land. China's doing it. And I know the Muslims are doing it also. They're not doing it next to our military bases like China is. China is buying up land around our military bases. Are they doing it to spy on us? Are they doing it because they're buying up all the hog ranches, or because they got to have their share of pork, because Chinese, they eat a lot of pork. So are the Muslims. So all this stuff's been going on for so long, it's got to come to a stop. And I think in the midterms it's going to, we already got this gerrymandering that's been going on. It was stopped in the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia, their Supreme Court, the Virginia Supreme Court stopped it. They had the gerrymandering where there's 11 representatives for the House of Representatives. And it was going to be one representative for the Republican Party and 10 representatives for the Democrat Party. It was 5 and 6, 6 being the Democrats and 5 being the Republicans, which is about even. That's a purple state, but it's a pretty close to being even there. And 60-40 anyway. But there are some New England states, and like I was just talking about Maine, the fraud going on in Maine. I guess Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire and Massachusetts, they're pretty much all represented by just the Democrat Party. I don't know if any Republicans in the House of Representatives from those states there. Now I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But this is going to stop, and I believe a lot of Democrats are going to jump ship on this. And they're not going to jump ship. They're still going to be Democrats. But they're going to do the things that the common sense thing to do. And just like, what is this Pratt, this guy that's running for mayor in Los Angeles. He's just moan over this Karen Bass, okay? Because she helped burn his city down. And now he's living in a streamline, one of those streamline trailers, and he's got that on his property where his house once stood, and apparently he's staying there. But they were giving him a bad time because he went to a motel and stayed in a motel for a little bit because there were some people trying to attack him in his trailer because I don't even know that he's a Republican. If he is a Democrat, he's a common sense Democrat. He's like John Fetterman. Come on, John Fetterman, he's a Democrat, but at least he's got a brain. At least he thinks for himself. He thinks outside the box and what's good for the United States, what's good for the people. He's a good representative from that standpoint, and he is a Democrat. But this Pratt, I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican. They say he's a Republican. But he might beat this Karen Bass. I was worried about this, what was her name? Rahman. Her name was Rahman. And they said that she was going to run for the Democrat Socialist Party, just like this Johan Mondami did in New York. I mean, come on, that guy right there, now he's already backpedaling a lot of the things that he said he was going to do for New York, but he can't do it. And he believed in Sharia law. He believed in the Quran. They say that, he's for Jewish people. No, he's not. Him and his wife is anti-Semitic. And they've proven that before he became mayor of New York. So a lot of this stuff is going to change. Again, like I said, you can't fool all the people. You can fool, you can fool all the people some of the time. And you can fool some of the people all the time. But you can't fool all the people all the time. Abraham Lincoln said that. So anyway, hopefully the midterms, They're going to cut back some of the taxes. That's what Trump wants. He wants the states to cut back their state taxes. I believe the federal tax is already cutting that back on the gas prices until this excursion is done in Iran, and I believe that's going to be over within the next couple of weeks. And but they have to get rid of the regime there in Iran. We can't have that regime. And one more thing. I know it's I've said it many times before, but why not let Trump run again? He got screwed out of his second term. He would have had 2 terms in a row, and he should have got 2 terms in a row. But fraud stepped in, and Trump didn't win the 2020 election. But because of that, and they've already proven that he actually did win the 2020 election, and he should have had 2 terms in a row, back to back. I think he should be allowed to have 2 terms back to back now, so he can get the things that he wants to get done. And then Ron DeSantis come in, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, the 3 of them, and whatever other candidates want to run for president for the Republican Party, for the DOC at that time, they can do that. But I think those 3 I just mentioned, Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance, are going to be the front runners. Personally, I'd like to see Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance can run for vice president again, because he's really young. He's got young children. Maybe this is something. Maybe he can wait 1 more term, or maybe even 2 more terms. Maybe he can run for Senate again, and he was a good senator. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'd rather see Donald Trump run again for another term. It has happened. Remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt? He ran 4 times. Now, I know they stopped that and they said, okay, you only can run for 2 consecutive terms. Well, he didn't get to run for 2 consecutive terms. Okay, he didn't have 2 of them in a row. They were split up. So maybe the people can allow him to do it 1 more time. And because I think 1 more term, he still looks vibrant. He's coherent. He's on top of his game. I don't know anybody that can have so many irons in the fire like Donald Trump does and handle stress. I just did a deal about stress here. And that was one more thing. It wasn't Uncomfortably Numb. That it was a song that I talked about in my last podcast. It's Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. And so I wanted to make that correction right now. That song relieves stress for me. It can relieve it for you too. Comfortably Numb. Remember that song by Pink Floyd. But Donald Trump, I think he can run 1 more time, and I think another term, another 4 years after this stint, could really get this country back on track. Just an idea. Anyway, please subscribe, hit that like button and share, and hit that notification bell so next time I'm on, you can hear me again. This is Coffee Break with Jimmy. Thanks.